Welcome and thank you for joining us today. This is going to be a very well-attended webinar. We appreciate your time. We have a great presenter, Justin Cunningham. He'll be talking about new hour of service rules and how that can change the way you dispatch your drivers. Before we begin, a little bit about the technology. Your lines have been muted for the duration of the webinar, but you can ask questions at any time. We encourage you to use your question box to submit questions, and we'll try to queue up as many as we can given our 30 minutes allotted for this webinar today. Now with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Today's guest speaker, Justin Cunningham, Director of Safety. He is a former transportation investigator with the Missouri DOT. He has extensive experience with CSA since 2008, and he's recognized CSA regulation speaker throughout the Midwest and also has a Class B CDL. With that, Justin, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody, for attending. The topic today is going to be about the new hours of service. As we all know, hours of service continuously change, and this will be the latest update that will take effect. Early as the beginning of this month, the FMCSA has stated that even with the rules being in litigation or under current lawsuit, they plan to go forward with the effective date of enforcing them July 1, 2013. What does this mean? What does this change? It will change the 34-hour restart, rest breaks, on-duty time, how you will receive penalties on a DOT audit, and with some oil field exemptions. Next slide, please. What you're looking at here is a comparison of the old rules to the new rules. The first one, which probably will be the biggest change for companies out there, is the 34-hour restart. The way it stands right now, you can use that 34-hour restart as many times as you want, and until July 1, you can use it as many times as you want. But effective July 1, 2013, there will be changes to it. Those changes will be, it must include 2 periods of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. using home terminal time, and may only be used once per week or 168 hours. So that's a big change where people could reset their week in the middle of the week. They now, if you, for example, if you reset yourself on a Saturday and Sunday, the next time that you can take that reset, that 34-hour reset, is the following Saturday and Sunday. If you're running Monday and Tuesday and you get laid up Wednesday and Thursday for some reason, those days will not count against your 70 hours, but you won't be able to reset until the next Saturday and Sunday. The next change will be with rest breaks. There are no rules on that right now. This is a new change that they're implementing. What it more or less states is when a driver accumulates 8 hours of either driving or on duty not driving, they must take a 30-minute break in the on-duty status. The last 3 already went into effect of February 27th, but they're being enforced July 1. That's on-duty time, which includes any time in the sleeper berth. It does not include any time in a parked vehicle, but what it means is you can take up to 2 hours before or after it's sitting in the passenger seat or in the bunk as additional off-duty time. The penalties, they have implemented what they call egregious violations. What this states is if a auditor finds violations that are 3 or more hours beyond driving limits, they can seek the maximum civil penalty. And oil field exemptions, this applies to line 5 or waiting time. They must show it on the logbook and slide it into remarks. So for most common companies, to recap on this, the big changes you will see is the top 2, with the 34-hour restart and the rest breaks. Next slide, please. What we'd also like to cover is, to keep your drivers prepared for what to watch for on the roadside with the basics. All the basics have high violations, and the ones you see on your screen are the ones that are most written up by officers. For unsafe driving, it's speeding. The biggest one here for speeding is speeding 6 to 10. Seatbelt use, it must be worn over the shoulder. It cannot be worn under the arm or behind the back. And hands-free devices. This will even encompass a GPS unit. Hours of service compliance. Now, I didn't note on this one, but the highest one on here is form and manner. But the other three listed there are your out of service and high point totals that can affect your SMS scores. Logbooks not current. They must be current to the last duty status. 11-hour, 14-hour, 60 and 70-hour rules, and retaining them for previous 7 days. Controlled substance, this is a huge change here in my mind. Possession of drugs and alcohol. A lot of drivers are under the interpretation, hey, it's my truck, I'm off duty, I can buy it and keep it in the truck, but they are getting wrote up for that now, and it's affecting the company. So companies really need to take note of that and have a zero tolerance for possession, even if they're on their on-duty time in the commercial truck. Driver fitness, CDLs being suspended, revoked, not in your possession, forgetting your wallet. Medical card, expired, not in your possession. Another change coming with this basic is the merging of the CDL and the medical card. The drivers will be getting their medical cards and reporting those to their state, and if they do not report that they've got a new medical, then their CDL will be suspended until they turn in that new medical. The last one, vehicle maintenance. The top three violations: brakes, lights, and tires. Now, when you're looking at roadside inspections, you can see they write these up in several different ways. But what you want to do is try to look at them as a whole: all lights, all brakes, all tires violations, and try to work up a way to fix those from happening anymore. Emergency equipment, fire extinguishers must be secured. The strap cannot be loose. Triangles must be 3 functional, and you must have spare fuses in the truck. Reflective tape must be on the truck and trailer. It can't have any gouges or flapping or faded. You must have a windshield condition, must be in good working order, nothing that obscures the driver's view. And last one, trucks must have to have show proof of DOT inspections. Now, with all these violations, you must make sure that you have policies written up for them and disciplinary action when these things do not happen, when they violate these. Next slide, please.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very terrific and concise presentation. We want to spend a couple of minutes talking about Cline University. The Cline Agency is very pleased to announce this new and innovative webinar program, which is being referred to as Cline University. Cline will be providing one webinar each month on a variety of very important topics pertaining to business, trucking, and insurance. Look for details about the next webinar within the next 2 weeks, and make sure that the email is whitelisted: webinars@clinewooduniversity.com. We'll try to make these presentations very concise, 15 minutes to 30 minutes. We're very respectful of your time and appreciate so many people attending today. And now we're going to move into our Q&A session. And as we do so, we're going to launch a quick poll. We're going to ask our moderator if he'd be kind enough to do that. And would like to know if you would like additional information on any of these topics. You can pick multiple answers for this, by the way. If you want information on this topic, or you want to suggest another webinar topic, or you would just like additional information on your coverages, please respond to this confidential poll. We will not be sharing the results, and we will take this, and Cline will be back in touch with you. Now, toward that end, we have a number of questions that came in. We won't be able to take all of these, but let's start with a few. The first question I can answer as the moderator. Yes, you can get a copy of the PowerPoint. Please direct your inquiries to connorw@clinewood.com. And the slide, as soon as the poll is done, will be presented for your viewing. It's Connor, CONNERW, @clinewood.com. And with that, Justin, the first question is, what does it mean when it comes to home terminal time?
That's a good question. The wording of that can be confusing for a company. The wording for home terminal time was being confused as meaning that when a driver is deciding to take his 34-hour restart, he must come back to the home terminal or his home to do that. But what the wording actually means is when a driver decides to take his 34-hour restart, he must do so with taking two days between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. at the time zone he lives in. So, for example, if you have a Missouri-based driver getting ready to take his 34-hour restart, he must take that with 2 consecutive days, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. at be Central Standard Time. He can take that wherever he wants. He can be at a truck stop or at a shipper or something like that. It does not have to be at home or the terminal. That was a good question. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. And there are so many poll responses coming in. We will leave that open for another 30 seconds before we display the final contact information on the slide. The next question, does my driver have to take more than one 30-minute break? That's all there is. Does my driver have to take more than one 30-minute break?
In an instance where your drivers have more than 8 hours working, they could have the potential of taking more than one 30-minute break. If you still have plenty of time to take and you get to your first 8 hours and you take your 30-minute break and you're working and you've had enough time with left on your day, yes, you could have to take more than one 30-minute break. But you want to make sure that you get 8 hours either driving or on duty not driving, and then go up to the off duty to take your 30-minute break. And on another note, with the time with people reporting on timesheets, you do have to abide by the 30-minute break. However, you still only have to report time in, time out, and total hours for that day on your timesheet.
Thank you. There's been many questions that have come in relating to nuances involving the break. Clinewood has promised that all these questions will be answered by email. So if we don't get to them today, you can expect an email or a phone call to respond to your questions. We have time for another one. Do I need policies and procedures in place for all 7 basics? It does not say written or otherwise. Do I have policies and procedures in place for all 7 basics?
Right now, the way it stands, regulations state in writing that the only policy you have to have in writing is for the drug and alcohol program. However, with the CSA implementation, they are recommending that you have policies in place for all basics. What I mean by that is, let's take the unsafe driving basic. Definitely want to make sure you have a speeding policy, a seatbelt policy, a hands-free policy. And then if you start seeing things pop up on your CSA scores, like a following distance or radar detectors, you can amend or add policies as you go. With driver fitness, you want to make sure you track your CDLs and have how you expect your drivers to turn in CDLs and medical cards. Vehicle maintenance policies. So yes, they're recommended, but regulation only says drug and alcohol has to be in writing.
Thank you very much. And there's been many questions relating to the breaks and loading time, and while people are loading, there's probably 5 or 10 questions relating to that. Is there any comment that you'd like to make generically about how that counts, or should those be answered individually?
I'll try to answer each one of those individually, because I want to make sure I get a clear, concise answer for each one of them.
And there are many nuances to that. So once again, for all of our attendees today, and we very much appreciate your time, it's a huge audience today, you can contact Clinewood by reaching out to Connorwood, connorw@clinewood.com. The information is on the slide. And you can go to the website, www.clinewood.com. All of your questions that you've queued up will be answered. Many very good questions. They're just very nuanced, so we want to make sure that the information that we send is correct. We'd like to thank our speaker today, Justin Cunningham, who did a great job with the presentation, and once again encourage you all to look for the email for the next Clinewood webinar next month on another important topic. With that, we'd like to thank the presenter and you for attending, and we hope you all have a very great day. This web seminar is now ending.